So excited to be talking with Sophia Jones, who is the analyst on the radio for the Portland Fire. You can also catch her as a co-host on the Locked On Podcast Network for Locked On Women's Basketball. Sophia, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time.
Thank you so much for having me here. Always down to talk about the fire.
Right on. Well, let's dive right in and just being in the building for the franchise's first win. Can you just describe the vibe?
It was incredible. I truly don't have many words to describe the amount of joy that was in the building and emotion that was pouring out of the players.
For you on a personal level to be able to be a part of history, what was that like for you?
It was really, really incredible. It was a great experience. I've never been on the positive side of a buzzer beater in a game that I've called. So having that moment and just the whole fashion that the game occurred. I mean, just taking down the giants that are the New York Liberty, the expectations that the Fire had coming into the season. It was just a lot. And for them to win that game in that fashion, it was just really, really special. And I'm honored to be a small part of the Fire's history in that scenario.
Let's dive in, Sophia, and just talking about what a win like that can do for a team.
It really just proved that they deserve to be considered where some other teams are right at the standard at the top. I mentioned the New York Liberty. They're one of the teams that are favorited to win the WNBA championship this year. So already only in your second game ever as a franchise in this new era, you're taking down those giants. They are one of the standards of the WNBA. So you're living up to that. And I think that that is a great test for the Fire to prove to not only the league, but to themselves that they can hang. They're not just another expansion team because expectations can be a little low for new clubs. And that is just not the case when you're looking at Portland.
Yeah, I think expectations around the league and even for fans was kind of like, yeah, this is going to be fun. We're happy to be here, but we're building towards the future. Well, all of a sudden you win a game like that and your expectations kind of change a little bit. What has stood out to you through two games with the team?
They play with so much positive energy. They look so together as a unit and just that trust within that group. And it prevails all on the sideline throughout the coaching staff and organization as a whole. It's just such a great, tight knit unit. And that is something that just has really stood out to me. And it really stood out to me last game. There were just so many little things that compiled throughout where there was the challenge that head coach
Mm.
Alex Sarama won, or diving for the loose ball, getting deflections, getting steals. All of those little things added up, and it just catalyzed that put back layup at the very end off of an offensive rebound, which is one of the most hustle plays that a player could do.
Let's talk a little bit about. We got to start with the star player in all of this, and Bridget Carlton, and the expectations for her to go really from like a glue player, like a role player, to now being the player, the go-to player. How have you thought that she's handled this role so far?
She's really done great. I think it was really shown last game where she had a career high 26 points, but I was almost equally as impressed with her defense. She added in 4 steals just all around the court, and that vocal presence that she has on both ends of the floor is what's really important for such a young team as well. But she hasn't even been in Portland for a full 2 weeks. She was overseas with her club. So having this kind of transition, she told me yesterday that she has to be adaptable because with the amount of just different teams she's played for throughout her European career mostly, you have to be able to adjust on the fly. And that's exactly what she's doing here in Portland. And we saw a lot of that last night with those pull-up threes. She's extending her range. Now that she's having the keys to her team and she can get those shots, she is fully taking advantage of it.
How about at point guard with Carla Late and the toughness that she's shown early on and her willingness to not only distribute but also create and even score?
Carla consistently rises to the occasion of whatever she is given. Back in the 2025 year, she won a Euro Cup Finals MVP. This past EuroLeague season, she had 20 points and 6 assists for her club's third place game. So just at 22 years old, she's a proven winner on the biggest stages that there can be. And that's exactly what the Fire got. That's why they recruited her from the Golden State Valkyries. Just you talk about a competitor, someone that when she went down last game, she had to be helped off to the locker room, wasn't putting much pressure on her ankle at all, and just comes right back in. The very first play is drawn up for her, and she gets a bucket right away. That is the kind of relentlessness that Carla has consistently shown throughout her, even though small, but her entire playing career, that I think fans just truly love and buy into. But if you're a coach, that fire is something that you love to see.
Who's a player that fans should be looking out for? Because, Coach Sarama is going deep into his roster, and everybody basically has to be ready to play. Who's somebody that we should be looking out for, or has been somewhat of an unsung hero so far?
I would definitely go with Nadia Poch. She has been a consistent starter, but at just 21 years old, she has already had the defensive assignments against Kelsey Plum, Skylar Diggins, and last game, Brianna Stewart. So, an incredible lineup. And she consistently just matches that challenge that Coach Sharama is asking of her. She's so defensively versatile, knows exactly what spots she tries to score at in offense, whether that's just catch and shoot threes or streaking to the basket, getting some layups. She's really long and athletic. The offensive game is still developing, but the effort on the defensive end, because she's in that front line guarding the ball a lot of times, sometimes at the top of the press, she really sets the tone and it creates a lot of chaos. So she's definitely been an unsung hero so far for the Fire.
I love that word that you used there with chaos. And that was something that, head coach Alex Sarama has really wanted to create, especially on defense. Just maximum disruption, I think, is the phrase that we've heard over and over. What have you thought about head coach Alex Sarama's job so far? And what has stood out to you that, has made him so different than other head coaches?
Just his ideology and the way that he communicates it all. That's something that really stood out to me from the very first training camp practice that I watched. He has these ideas, they're really big, very high risk, high reward kind of style, but he communicates it really well to his team, offers a lot of encouragement, and presents it in a digestible way so that these players, they all really buy into the system. And it's one thing to have the ideas, it's another thing to get your group to buy in and accept and really run through a wall for you. And that's what I'm seeing from Coach Sarama so far. He's very analytical, very specific, and talk about that high risk, high reward. He talks about they know exactly what calculated risks to take because of those analytics he's really big on. But a lot of variability is built into how he coaches. Just today, when I was watching practice at the very end, they were in their socks, no shoes, but just doing like shooting drills, practicing footwork or whatever. But different things like that is what's getting this group to buy in and just accept being different in untraditional ways.
How about also your knowledge and your history with the Valkyries and having general manager Vanya Chernovitz, just what you've thought of how she's assembled this team and maybe some similarities or differences between her time with the Valkyries and now being in charge of the Portland Fire?
One of the similarities I'll definitely say is she is extremely involved and hands-on. Last year with the Valkyries, she was at nearly every single practice and shoot around. I've seen the same here at the Fire. She's extremely involved, always having conversations with coaches, staff, different front office members in the organization, the media as well. So she's very involved in that aspect, and she really brings her international background onto the basketball court. With the Valkyries, they had a couple gems internationally, just bringing them over, really impactful players. And that's exactly what we're seeing here with the Portland Fire already. I mean, you mentioned Carla Late, and I mentioned Nadia Poch, very international players, one from Australia, one from France. So you have that style of play that is more untraditional, but the more that it's being accepted into the W, GMs like Vanya are capitalizing on it. This is the second youngest team in the WNBA, so it has a lot of room for growth if the group stays together as well.
With the historic run that the Valkyries went on last year, is it fair, unfair to compare the two expansion teams this year to that and being like, well, you know what, all of a sudden maybe they could be a playoff team? Or is that kind of setting the bar a little too high?
I don't think it's setting the bar high. I do think the Valkyries were in a different place in
Mhm.
regards to they had more veterans and seasoned players on their roster. So already you have players that have had playoff experience. They've been in certain situations before, as opposed to the Fire, again, second youngest team in the WNBA. So there's a lot more room for growth and there's more youth there. But again, I just go back to the game yesterday and how much it just looks so incredibly strong, still without players like Shug Sutton and Carly Samuelson not touching the floor yet, but very, very high ceiling for this team. Just don't know when they're truly going to reach it, if it happens this year or maybe next year or in 5 years. But it's just truly very positive to see that it already clicked for one game. And I think it was really special to just witness that moment in general.
Sophia, I got one last one for you, and it's just kind of looking ahead. And what should we be watching for? What will you be paying attention, especially when they get through this 4 game homestand and then have to go on the road?
Well, due to some of the WNBA analytics have actually said that the Fire have the third hardest strength of schedule through the first quarter of the season, which I think is really good for this team because, not to be too punny, but it's essentially trial by fire.
Hmm.
And you're really getting tested against some of the best already teams that have consistently made the playoffs in these last couple of years. So you're getting that opportunity to see where you're as a team early on and make those adjustments early, figure yourselves out so that later down the line, when it does get to those easier teams, you can pick up a lot more wins. So that is just my outlook for this season and where I see them at.
Sophia, where can people find you?
Sophia C. Jones underscore on Instagram. That took me a second. I just changed my handle. Sorry.
Well, that's perfect. Make sure to follow Sophia and also make sure to listen to her on the radio. She is the analyst for the Portland Fire on the radio and also on the Lockdown Women's Basketball podcast. Sophia, thank you so much for giving me some time here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.